Hello everyone, welcome back to the Cypher Experience. It's the Spyro anniversary month, so I am covering my favorite childhood games, and today we have, well, my actual favorite game of all time. When I made the Spyro the Dragon experience, I thought it would be even harder to talk about the follow-up game from about a year later. Like the original, but to a slightly lesser degree, the sequel has been talked about to death. But maybe I'd find something fresh and interesting to say about it after playing through the game again. After all, Spyro 2 was the first game that I ever fully completed and got bonus completion for, and is up there with Pokemon Emerald and Crash 3 as one of my most played games of all time. The first question on people's minds will probably be, how does this game compare to Spyro 1? Well, both games have their appeal, but Spyro 2 took the formula from the first game, made it bigger, better, and more interesting in my opinion. From the first to the second game, they've added new abilities, new characters with in-world NPCs and dialogue boxes, mini-games, and cutscenes which bookend every level, encapsulating the conflict you're there to solve, and the resolution when you finish the level, as well as overall plot cutscenes that are spliced throughout the game, and arguably better boss fights. All of this combined simply makes Spyro 2's world feel much more alive. Not only this, but every level also has a counterpart. What do I mean? Well, there are the more obvious ones with Skelos Badlands and Crystal Glacier, and Breeze Harbor and Zephyr, but you have some more subtle sister levels in Sunny Beach and Hurricos, which juxtapose a bright and sunny day with an overcast one, as well as levels like Fracture Hill and Magma Cone, which have similar, but not the same, enemies, NPCs, and conflicts. My personal favorite pair, Breeze Harbor and Zephyr, pit two worlds against each other in a war, where you help the Breeze Builders in one level and the Landlubbers in the other. Aiding both sides of the conflict, Spyro? Not cool. And then you have the game's main collectibles, orbs. In the homeworlds, they're found out in the wild, usually by locating something that seems a little off or a hidden area. In the levels, however, they're obtained by completing some sort of objective or minigame. All of these minigames are unique, and most of them are fun to play, making for some great level diversity. They range from riding on the back of a manta ray through bubble rings, to gathering popcorn crystals in a volcano, to running around the map at top speeds, to chasing a genie who throws bombs at you, to using seeds to make platforms to reunite two lovers, to my favorite minigame where you guide a snow leopard back to his owner. Oh, yeah, good boy, George. George!
You found George. I'm so glad he's safe.
Oh my god, he's mewing. What a baby. Ah! I'm sorry, George, I gotta go. I love George. All of the orb missions are given a difficulty rating out of 5 stars, so if you're a casual player, you can kind of focus down the easier ones so you can get to where you need to go. But for completionists, they throw a little bit of a challenge in there for you. I will say, not every minigame is a hit though. The monkey mission in Scorch isn't that great, and the Scarecrow one in Robotica Farms is a little tedious, even if it's kind of charming. There aren't many negatives that I can think of overall for this game though. The only one is that when compared to Spyro the Dragon, this game does have less dialogue from the Purple Boy himself. See, Spyro often has little retorts or one-liners when freeing dragons in the first game, but here he only really talks in a couple cutscenes. It's kind of a shame because they just got Tom Kenny for the role, and it's not like they didn't really have an opportunity to do so. Like I said, NPCs have dialogue boxes, and a good number of them have yes or no options to select from. They could have had those unique responses voiced to make the character of Spyro stick out a little more. From my perspective, making dialogue options, even ones as simple as yes or no, not voiced, lets the player put their own voice in that space. Maybe as an immersion technique or something like that. But since Spyro is already an established character, it kind of had the opposite effect for me in my most recent playthrough, kind of taking me out. I don't know if this is just a me thing, but I don't want Spyro to be me, I want Spyro to be Spyro. I know Insomniac wasn't super happy with the attitude that Spyro gave off in the first game, but that doesn't mean you can't have him talk at all. I mean, he talks in the cutscenes, why not have a little bit of dialogue here and there in other places? Overall, this is a small nitpick, but gun to my head, this is what I would choose for a negative for this game. Another thing that can be seen as a negative, which I don't personally think, is how they change the bosses. Like I said earlier, the boss fights are better overall, but they don't have the level leading up to the fight, just the arena. Do I sort of miss the levels leading up to the boss? Yes, but I'd much rather have a more interesting and engaging boss fight instead. The final boss, Ripto, is probably one of the best boss fights in any 3D platformer ever. It has 3 phases, callbacks to multiple mechanics, and the addition of a couple new ones, on top of some badass music and visuals. The music playing right now, that's Ripto's arena theme. It does also help that Ripto's character is done so incredibly well up to this point.
Get off! Get off me, you useless buffoons! Why can't either of you? Where are we? No dragons. Wonderful. Crush, go back and pack my bags. We're moving in. Say hello to your new king.
He's a devious little asshole, but ultimately he's a coward, so the final fight is extra satisfying.
Ow! You despicable little creature! I'll kill you!
It's kind of crazy how well this bassline works for him. It's simple yet effective, which is actually kind of the opposite for the rest of the music in the game. That is to say that they're complex and effective. I was going into these videos with the childhood belief that Spyro 2 is an overall better game, but Spyro 1 has a better soundtrack. After all of this, I can't say that that's true. Spyro 1's soundtrack is amazing, but somehow when I'm in these levels in Spyro 2, they just mesh so much better with the music. I think what it is that Stuart Copeland this time got a little more experimental with sound effects. You have levels like Breeze Harbor, which use these creaking metal sound effects. And Magma Cone with a weird bellowing voice. Lots of levels have much more specific sound effects which tie into the level's theme, which might be why I thought the first game's soundtrack was so much better, because if I was ever listening to them separately while not playing the game, I think Spyro 1's soundtrack holds up better as, you know, just music on its own rather than music associated with the game. Like I touched on in the last video game music does really rely on you playing the game, and I think Spyro 2's music would very much so fit that example. Let's see, what else is there to talk about? Well, like I said earlier, this is the first game that I ever fully completed, but what I didn't mention was that it's also the first game that I ever sought to break. Oh, holy shit! Let's go. That might be one of the best ones I've ever seen. That was great. Most fans of the series know the sheer ridiculousness of some of the glitches that can be found in this game. But before I go any further, I want to emphasize that Spyro 2 is not a broken game. Far from it, actually. Spyro 2 is one of the most well-made and consistent games that I've ever played. You could easily play through this game 100 times without ever finding a glitch. But these glitches that I'm referring to are more like exploits that you seek out. Perhaps the most infamous of these is the swimming in air glitch, which can actually only be executed in a few levels in this game. Nonetheless, it's a very fun glitch to toy around with, and you can actually skip some backtracking using it. However, my favorite exploit in this game is by far the double jump. Obviously, it isn't fair to judge a game positively or negatively on an exploit such as this, but it just makes the game so damn fun to play. A game this old and talked about feels fresh and exciting every time you play it because of this, and even without it. Think the Mario 64 exploits, like the jumping up the stairs backwards shit, whatever that's called. I'm not a speedrunner, I don't know that. The places you can go with this are mind-boggling, even helping speedrunners beat Spyro 2 in under 7.5 minutes as of the recording of this. That's insane. Oh! Let's go, I did it. If glitches like these weren't in the game, who knows if it would be as exciting to talk about. I still love the base game, but the double jump has given me so much enjoyment and has really changed my perspective on glitches in games. That is to say that just because something can be broken and can have unintended consequences doesn't mean it's a bad thing and can sometimes be very fun. Oh no, I'm using the video essay voice. But that's not to say that the base games aren't interesting. Far from it. Spyro 2 is an extraordinary game, and an even brighter example of a 3D collectathon than its predecessor. Sure, it slightly diminished the 3D platformer aspects, but what we get in return more than makes up for it. Is it different from Spyro 1? Yes, in many ways, but that doesn't make it necessarily better or worse. I haven't even talked about the skill points. This game actually implemented its own achievement system. What? What? I don't know if other games did this before, but it's like literal achievements. Like, think what you would normally expect of achievements in modern games, like Steam games, and that's probably what you're gonna find in Spyro 2. Doing miscellaneous tasks, beating bosses without getting hit, doing certain things in a certain amount of time, and the reward for this is actually much better than just like getting a platinum or a little ribbon. You get a full epilogue telling you what certain characters are doing after the story of the game, and even further beyond that, you get a little booklet of extinct creatures from Avalar, which is probably just like scrap designs and stuff, but it's cool that they implemented it in such a creative way. Not only that, but the other post-game content in this game is pretty cool, where you do mini-games which feature characters throughout the game, and you also unlock a theater, where you can view all the cutscenes, and unlock a permanent fire breath upgrade, which, to be fair, is kind of useless unless you're using it to get some of the skill points. Now, I don't know where to fit this in because it isn't relevant to anything I'm talking about, but I did pick this up from my local game store, and I just thought it was neat. I just got it a couple days ago, so I do also have one for Spyro 1, but I got it after the video was done, so, you know, no real point to me having this. I know the game like the back of my hand, but it's kind of cool to have, and there's my cat. I think it's time to wrap up this video. I want to thank you guys a lot for watching. Sorry I didn't get it out sooner. I had a little bit of illness stuff and family stuff as well, so I'm glad to be back, hopefully on schedule. I wanted to have the Spyro 3 video out in September. It's not looking like that's gonna happen, but we'll see. Like I said, I have Spyro 3 on the docket, and then I also have Spyro Reignited after that, and maybe a surprise video somewhere in there, or after. We'll see. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!